Welcome today to our webinar. My name is Dr. Kate Sullivan. I'm a clinical psychologist here at the NYU Child Study Center on the Autism Service. You can submit questions at any time today by typing them into the questions pane on the control panel, and that's on the right side of your screen. We'll be answering questions at the end of our presentation. All right, so today we're going to be talking about Can I Hold Your Hand? Navigating the dating world when you're a teen or a young adult with autism. And this is coming at a relevant time when Netflix on Friday had released their new series, Atypical. So this is giving some background on social skills and navigating the dating world when you have autism. So this is an overview of what we'll be chatting about today. We'll talk about social challenges among teens and young adults with autism. When we think of dating, that involves social skills, and even friendship making skills is important to think about. So we'll talk about that, the importance of friendships and relationships for all of us, and for especially our teens and young adults on the spectrum. The what and how. So we'll talk about social strategies, how to build success for dating. So we'll talk about those nuts and bolts. And then we'll also touch briefly on the role of parents and caregivers as social coaches. In the social skills programs we run here, there is, the parents also participate in the group. They have a separate concurrent session, and they're learning the skills right alongside their teens and young adults. So it's an important role to play in terms of parents and caregivers. And then I'll talk briefly, I'll just provide some treatment programs and resources. I believe folks will be getting a PDF of this presentation, as well as it'll be posted online. So those programs and resources you can just go back to and reference if they are helpful. So I'll talk a little bit about social challenges among teens and young adults who are on the spectrum. All right, so here we have kind of these are different areas that some of our teens and young adults struggle with and that are addressed in social skills training in groups. I'll touch briefly on some of them. Using nonverbal communication, so that's what we think of when we think of eye contact, either using too much, too little, how to kind of regulate that, facial expressions, and how to integrate those into a conversation, as well as some gestures. Also, interpreting social cues can be challenging for some of our teens and young adults. Pragmatics, thinking of reciprocal conversations, assessing interest of the people that we're talking with, and understanding the social landscape, right? In a lot of high schools and colleges, there is a social landscape. There's different groups who are interested in different things, and helping our teens and young adults understand that social landscape is a big piece. Social awareness, so again, picking up on some of those, assessing interests from other people, taking perspective, right? What was that like for the other person? What did they think of me? Do you think they will want to talk to me again? Those types of perspective taking questions, and also some social motivation. So how comfortable or how much motivation they feel in terms of initiating social interactions. These are all important pieces that are addressed in social skills training that oftentimes our teens and young adults have some combination of challenge with. And typically for those kids who participate in social skills treatment, there's usually two types of kids that kind of come in to see us. Either there are these socially rejected kids or socially neglected kids. And the socially rejected kids are those kids that are teased or bullied. They might have a bad reputation. They're actively seeking out their peers, but their peers are actually pushing them away. They're being alienated by these individuals. So those are the socially rejected kids. Just they have an interest in interacting. They just aren't using the skills appropriately. And the socially neglected kids, these are our withdrawn or isolated kids. They go ignored or unnoticed. And they're actively avoiding peers. They could be seen as pretty shy, but for whatever reason, they're not initiating. They're not making those initiations. And sometimes those are our anxious or depressed kids, kids with ASD. Both kids with autism can be socially rejected or socially neglected, depending on what their social challenges are. But these are oftentimes the challenges that we see in terms of what the consequences happen to be when our teens and young adults are trying to use their social skills that they might not have. The importance of friendships. So there's been research that's shown that friendships are really important when we think of self-esteem and independence. And we only need one or two close friends and that really helps protect us against other things like anxiety and depression. So having one close friend is positively correlated with self-esteem, independence, and that includes adaptive living, so just daily living skills, and feelings of well-being. And it's really important when we think of our teens and young adults, how they're feeling and how positive they feel about themselves. And especially something to think about as they move forward in their lives is really creating these opportunities for developing these close friendships. So that's a piece I'll talk a little bit more about. So the transition to young adulthood, this is a time of a lot of change for all families, and it can be really tricky. So one of the things to think about is from high school to college. That's one of the times that can be pretty tricky. There's a lot more flexibility in schedules. There's less, certain social activities might not be predictable, and you have to go out and maybe seek those opportunities and those activities. And it's really important for caregivers and providers of these teens and young adults as they navigate this transition to really think about how we can help them intentionally build more supports and social experiences, because that's how they will gain access to some of these peers, as well as kind of helping them gain the skills needed to navigate these situations. And I think a big thing to highlight is these kind of social events or social experience can be nerve-wracking for any teen or young adult. But if you've identified the social challenges, if you have those social challenges, it can make it that much more difficult. And it can have a profound effect on navigating social relationships. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we were talking about some of these social skills, these basic social skills, and I'll talk about some of those, the conversation, like trading information, having a conversation, because those are imperative to also navigating romantic relationships. So if you have social challenges, it can make dating that much more of a challenge. So it's something we'll talk about. So thinking of the social skills like getting a job, keeping it, making and maintaining friendships, and for dating, one of the things I want to highlight is those skills can be taught. Just like the underlying rules of a foreign language, for example, can be broken down and explained. A lot of people think that social skills are innate, that they're hardwired in some way, and you're either born with social skills or without them. But the truth is, there's actually a set of skills that you can learn to be more socially successful. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. In terms of teaching social skills, I'm just going to highlight real quick. Elizabeth Lageson is out of UCLA, and she developed the PEERS program, and this is a teen and young adult curriculum for navigating, making, and keeping friends. The teen curriculum does not include dating. In the young adult group, it does include dating. When Dr. Lageson was creating the program, she did a focus group with teens and their parents, and the teens really wanted dating incorporated in the curriculum, but parents did not. So she didn't incorporate it for the teens, but then when she later developed the young adult curriculum, she did include that, and that's 4 sessions on dating, and we'll get into that in a little bit. We use the PEERS program here. That's what we do here at the Child Study Center in terms of our social skills curriculum. So again, we'll get into a little bit. The reason for highlighting this is where this program came from in terms of UCLA and the research behind it. It is an evidence-based treatment. So before publishing the manuals and disseminating this program, Dr. Liz Lageson did 2 randomized controlled trials on each of the manuals to show that families who participate in the program actually really did benefit from the skills that were taught. So that's what we use here. And so how is it helpful, right? How do we break it down? So in terms of teaching social skills, Dr. Lageson really focused on how to capitalize on the learning styles of our teens and young adults with autism. So the skills are broken down into concrete rules and steps. So when you think of, well, go just talk to them, have a conversation, right? That's a really abstract instruction or a skill to have a conversation. So that's one of the things we break down in the PEERS group is what does it mean to have a conversation? How do you do that? So it really breaks down to those concrete steps. The other piece is utilizing these ecologically valid skills, and that's just a fancy way of saying what are the steps, what are the skills that kids, teens, and young adults who are successfully or socially successful actually doing. what are they doing and how can we teach those skills to our teens and young adults. So it uses those ecologically valid skills. One example of that is we do teach about teasing, and that's a verbal teasing. And one of the things that kids who are socially successful are doing, well, I'll back up for 1 second. Everyone gets teased. Everyone does. It's just how you react to it determines how much, if you'll get teased again or not get teased again. And the idea is the teaser is looking for a big reaction. They're looking for upsetting you. And so if you do that, they're going to keep coming back and teasing you. So the ecologically valid skill, what kids who are socially successful are actually doing is they are keeping their cool. They're acting like what the other person said was pretty lame or dumb. And they give a brief, short comeback, like whatever, anyways, and then they walk away. And that's what kids who are socially successful at stopping teasing are doing. And that's one of the things we teach in both the teen and the young adult group for verbal teasing specifically, not for physical aggression or bullying. So that's one of the things to give an example of the ecologically valid skills. And then the other thing that we teach are common social errors. So as I back up to the beginning of this presentation, this webinar, one of the things that I talked about was those social challenges. So the common social errors that folks are on the spectrum who are what they're doing. So thinking of eye contact, for example, right? Either staring or making too little. We coach around use appropriate eye contact. We give examples of what not to do and what to do. That's just one of our basic things that we talk about when we talk about having a conversation. So that's kind of the components to teaching peers, these concrete steps, what socially successful kids are actually doing, and focusing specifically on those common social errors that oftentimes our teens and young adults are doing. And then the way that we kind of teach around this is we do role plays and discussions. So for each of the skills that we break down, we talk about, we do a demonstration of what to do and what not to do. And then we ask them to practice it. They do a kind of a behavioral rehearsal, and we provide feedback for them. And that's and we have discussions on that. And in each role play, we do perspective taking questions. So what was that like for the other person? What do you think they thought of me? Do you think they'll want to talk to me again? So not only teaching the cognition, the basic skill, but also teaching a little bit there the perspective, which is really important too, important to generalize. So how do we build success? So what are some of these skills that I've been chatting about? So trading information, conversation skills. Here is one of the things that we talk a lot about. First, in both our teens and adult groups, pretty foundational to making friendships or starting relationships. So in terms of trading information, having a two-way conversation, incorporating that nonverbal communication, and finding common interests. One of the things we talk a lot about in peers is that friendships are based on common interests. What are you interested in? How do you find other people who have that interest? And so those are some of the things that we cover. Again, these are all things that, again, have a couple of sub-steps within them. We really break it down to make it pretty concrete for our teens and young adults. For example, having a two-way conversation, that means building that conversation. That means having that reciprocal conversation. So we talk about asking questions, answering your own questions. So if you ask, like, well, what kind of movies do you like? My favorite kind of movies are action movies. So answering your own question, asking open-ended questions, asking follow-up questions, all ways to kind of build the conversation and sharing the conversation. Don't be a conversation hog. Don't be an interviewer where you're asking question after question after question. You want to listen. You don't want to be argumentative. You don't want to police, so correcting them on their grammar or doing other things. You want to use good volume control, good body boundaries, and good eye contact. And so we teach around a lot of those aspects of conversation skills. And again, the nonverbal piece. So how do you assess interest? The three things that we cover in that is, are they talking to you? Are they facing you? And are they looking at you? Right? If you're trying to talk to someone and they're kind of closing you out of the circle, or they're not making eye contact, or they're not building the conversation with you, those are all signs that maybe they might not be interested. And we talk a lot about that friendship is a choice, right? So assessing interest and realizing that friendship is a choice. That's the conversation skills. Another skill that we talk about is making and maintaining friendships. So how do you choose appropriate friends, right? We think about different social groups based on different interests. So we help our teens and young adults identify what groups they think they identify with based on their interests. We help them figure out, well, how do you find social activities based on those interests? And then, for example, if you like chess, visiting a game store, finding the chess club, a chess meetup group, finding opportunities to find other people who are also interested in that activity, that interest. And then finding clues about that common interest. Well, how do you know someone is interested in that interest? It might be something that they're wearing, where they're hanging out at school or their job, what they're reading, right? Those different things, what they do with their free time. So those are all clues to figure out what people might be interested in, and is that a common interest? And again, both the conversation piece and this piece help build towards dating, because you're going to need our teens and young adults conversation and finding sources of friendship and people to connect with. It's important when we think of dating. Here's just some examples of common interests: meetup groups, cooking, cosplay. One of our young adults in our group was very interested in graphic novels. So we found a group at the New York Public Library that was happening every other week, so they started going there. So lots of opportunities, just finding those. Remember, it's focusing on what your teen or young adult is interested in. So here are some dating principles. This is kind of breaking down what we teach in our dating course of our peers program. And so dating is a choice. We really focus on that. We talk about it. There's good choices and bad choices. So here's just some kind of an outline of what we talk about when you're thinking of who to date. Good choices are that they have common interests with you, that you actually like them. They seem interested in you. You've traded information and assessed interest prior to letting them know you like them or asking them out. They're around the same age. We give this guideline because it can be riskier to date someone that's not close to your age. So just in terms of our social skills instruction, that's what we say. But parents and social coaches can be important people in terms of helping their young adult navigate choice in terms of dating, and that they're likely to say yes. You've kind of, again, assessed their interest. Bad choices are people that don't really seem interested in you. You maybe don't know them. You've seen someone at school, but you've never talked to them. Very risky in terms of a choice to pick for someone to maybe ask out. They ignore you. They have a history of being mean or making fun of you. They take advantage of you in some way. Maybe they've rejected you before. That's also not a great choice. Or they already have a boyfriend and girlfriend, right? You don't ask someone out or let them know you like them when they already have a boyfriend or girlfriend. It's kind of setting you up for failure, right? They're already involved, right? And that could affect your reputation too. So dating is a choice. Dating sources, that was what we covered. Letting someone know you like them. These are the different steps for letting someone know you like them. You can do one or all of these steps when you are getting to know someone and they're interested. So you talk to the mutual friend. So in terms of this is you have a friend that's also a friend with the person you're interested in. What you can do is talk to them, let them know that you think they're nice. Ask them if they're dating anyone. Ask if that they might be interested in you. Flirt with your eyes. This is some nonverbal ways of letting someone know you like them. And this is one of our role plays that we do in our young adult group. And so the idea there is you look at the person, you make a slight smile, you make eye contact, you look away, and you repeat that a couple of times. And we coach around our role play of what not to do is looking at someone, kind of staring at them, looking them up and down with this huge grin on your face, right? What could be the problem with that? We go through that and the perspective taking questions. And then we have our young adults practice, and we provide both female and male group leaders so they can practice. Ask them if they're dating anyone. So we go through this, and this is broken down again into several steps. We don't just say, hey, are you dating someone, right? You trade information, you've had a conversation with them, and you work it into the conversation. So an example might be the role play that we do is, oh, did you go skiing this weekend? Oh, I really like skiing too. Who did you go with? Oh, just some friends. Oh, really? Did you go with your boyfriend? Oh, no, I'm not dating anyone. Oh, so tell me, where did you go? Right? So you've worked it into the conversation. You've provided a cover story for why you're asking, and then you return back to the topic. So it's not just going up to the person and asking them if they're dating anyone. You give compliments, specific if you don't know them very well, and general if you do know them well. Giving general comments when you don't know them very well might seem a little bit disingenuous. And we talk about physical compliments from the neck up. You have beautiful eyes, you have a nice smile, rather than focusing on any physical compliments from the neck down. You show an interest in them by trading information, having conversations with them, and laugh at their jokes. Even if you don't think they're funny, we talk about having courtesy laughs. We coach around those things. I know we're getting close to our time. So this is just a brief kind of visual depiction of how we break down going out on a date. And again, this is a very long session in our group. We talk about what to do before. We do all the steps I just covered in terms of letting them know you like them. We talk about asking, how to ask, how to accept rejection, how to turn someone down, both accepting rejection and turning someone down. Someone might ask one of our teens and young adults, and if they don't like them, dating is a choice, and they can turn them down. Going out on a date, how to plan, prepare, begin the date, what to do during and at the end and after, and staying safe. And so, again, breaking that down, here's just a brief outline of how to stay safe on a date. And we kind of go into a little bit more detail on all of these, coaching our teens or our young adults on what to do here. And again, you guys can review the webinar online as well as look at the PDF to kind of see some of those skills. Role with parents, I'll briefly chat. Identify goals, talk with your teen or young adult. What are their goals in terms of dating? Are they interested? They just want to find out information? Do they just want the tools so that later they can, when they're caught in a situation, they can feel like they have the tool set to do that? They just want to feel more confident. So identify the goals with them. Then start small. It doesn't have to be something big. They can grab pizza on the way home from a class with someone, right? A very small get-together. Or maybe they might want some coaching on how to make an initial to start that trading information with someone. Practice together. You guys are wonderful. Caregivers and parents are wonderful people to kind of coach around and practice. And then really praise and recognize their efforts in terms of what progress and what courage they're taking to reach those goals. Our social learning program, here's the information if you want to reach out about our teen and young adult programs. This is the email and phone numbers for that. And this is our teen and young adult group. Duration, we have a fall cycle and a spring cycle, so we'll be starting the teen and young adult group in late September. But feel free to reach out. I've talked about the characteristics. There's an app and a book for some of these for more of the friendship making, not necessarily for the dating. But you can get this parent guide, The Science of Making Friends, and Friend Maker is the app that you can go onto the Apple Store and get that for your devices. Lots of programs, again, more being for you guys to have as resources in some of the online posting and things. This is a great program for women who are 18 years and older with autism who have a diagnosis. It's just a house they can hang out at, and they do have structured activities, but you don't have to participate. JCC has a lot of wonderful opportunities. Autism Speaks has a transition toolkit. I know I'm moving fast. And here's my contact information if you feel free to reach out if you have any follow-up to this presentation. All right, good. I expected that we can have a couple of questions. Let's see what we have. Okay, what do you do when your child's been rejected by someone he or she likes? Yeah, this is a really tricky one, and sometimes it can be really overwhelming for our teens and young adults when this happens. It's overwhelming for all of us, let's just be clear. It's not easy to handle rejection. And so some of the things we coach, again, we coach around some of those common social errors that our teens and young adults often do. And so one of the things is sometimes they can get upset in the moment, right? So we coach them just to keep their cool in the moment, right? You make kind of a casual statement of acceptance. All right, thanks for letting me know. You shift the subject back to what you were talking about. So if you were talking about common interest, hey, did you hear that new sci-fi movie is coming out? Do you want to get together and go this Friday? No, I'm actually seeing someone else. Okay, no problem. What about that other sci-fi movie? Did you see that one, the last one that came out? You're shifting the subject back to the common interest. And then you want to exit the situation, right? It's kind of uncomfortable for both of you, right? So you're saying, oh, great, well, you give a cover story, right? Oh, I got to get going, my class is starting, or I have a study group I'm headed to. You want to keep it friendly. That's a big piece. You don't want to pressure them to go out with you, right? Please, come on. We have these common interests. Just let's go date. And you don't want to ask for an explanation. Well, why not? Why are you saying no, right? You don't want to do those things. And so those are some of the rules that we cover in terms of handling rejection. It's a tough thing for all of us, but sometimes at least having some rules. Again, the first one, keep your cool, is really important, just so they don't exacerbate the situation. Sometimes we found. Our next question is, what limits do you recommend for social media at this age as it relates to interacting with a love interest online? It's a good question. In terms of limits, what I would say is, so teens and young adults, there's a little bit of a difference there. For our young adults, we actually coach around. It's very common for young adults to be dating online. I think what's really important, though, is that you cover safety skills and communication skills online with your teens and young adults in terms of one of the things we talk about in using electronic communication is the two-message rule. So if you texted someone and called someone, that's your two-message. If they haven't responded, you don't reach out anymore. There's the one-message rule for Facebook and other social media. If you've tried to friend them, just reaching out once is important. And so I think for in terms of setting limits, I think it's important, again, to maybe review the goals with your teens and young adults. It might be a little harder to be collaborative with your teen who wants to be maybe a little more secretive. But I would cover safety, just help them be educated, and also help them, if they're willing to let you in, kind of collaborate on how to make a dating profile page or how often to reach out to the person that they're interested in. Question 3, is there anything special regarding dating to, say, a child on the autism spectrum who is headed away to college? I think that's a good question. It's very broad, and so I want to break it down a little bit. One of the things that I would say is I would support that teen young adult heading off and say, all right, you're interested in, there is going to be a lot of new people to meet, and let's focus, when you go to college, focus on getting involved, on getting to know people in general, on building friendships. And if someone comes up that seems like that you're interested in terms of romantically, then that's something to navigate at that point. But I would, in terms of coaching them, would focus more specifically on just building friendships. What are your common interests? Review that with them. Say, well, let's see what kind of clubs or activities are at your college, and let's see how you can get involved with those so that they can at least have a social network when they go to school, not rushing into the dating scene. Something that I would coach any teen going to college on. Yeah. Question 4, can you recommend any how-to dating videos for teenagers? I'm hesitant to do this because there's not, and I don't know of any actually, in terms of evidence-based dating, how-to dating for teens and young adults with autism. And I think, honestly, some can mislead them and send them in the wrong direction. If anyone has seen Atypical yet, that's one of the things Sam, the main character, does. He looks online for resources and gets really misinformed, right? So I don't have any that I recommend. One of the things is Dr. Liz Lageson, the Science of Making Friends book, which is just the friendship making without the dating, has a DVD of all the role plays with the associated skills, and so does the Friend Maker app. There isn't the dating videos posted yet in terms of at a particular location online. She's looking to do that. There is, I think, the Flirting with Your Eyes. I think they do have that posted on UCLA's YouTube channel, which I don't know, maybe we can post in some notes when we repost this webinar or something. But I think once they make those role plays, I think that's going to be really helpful, and that's a wonderful resource. But there's nothing I would currently recommend in terms of how-to videos. And question 5, my 11-year-old son has Asperger's and has shown no interest in dating yet. How can I talk to him before he is ready so that he's prepared? I think that if he's, again, I would coach around the friendship and friendship building. How can I talk to him before so he's prepared? I think there's the conversation of just kind of also development for your 11-year-old son in terms of puberty, sexual interest, and romantic interest. And so I would focus on helping and coaching around building friendships. What is his common interest? Meeting people, getting out there again and building that social network. And I think that thinking about some of these skills related to dating, a lot of kids, it happens at different times. In our young adult group, I would say a fourth of the kids are kind of ambivalent, or the young adults are ambivalent about dating. Some are already pursuing, like 2 out of our 8 are usually pursuing a romantic relationship, and the others just want to get kind of a toolkit or a tool, have a toolbox of what to do in those circumstances. They're really eager to know, because I think a lot of teens and young adults with autism and other, teens and young adults as well, are just nervous on how to navigate it. So in terms of helping kind of coach your son, again, I would focus on those friendship and building his social network and building social confidence. I think that's a big piece, so that he feels comfortable, so that when he does have an interest, it's a romantic interest, and that can be, he'll have a positive self-esteem and confidence as a footing before navigating those. Okay, this is our last question. When you work with clients, what do they say are their biggest struggles or challenges in relationship dating situation? So it's interesting. I would say that the teen or young adults might say something different than the parents. I think the parents, I think as some of these questions have come up, some of the challenges are, how do you set limits? How do you support them? How do you make sure they're safe? My child won't talk to me, or they don't show a lot of social motivation. The young adults, I think, and teens, I think it's hard in terms of knowing what to do in terms of, I would say there's two kind of sides. When we think of those socially rejected and neglected kids, it kind of filters down into this question as well. Some of our teens and young adults show so much interest, or they show a lot of interest, and they're not sure how to appropriately direct that interest. So they might come off as repeatedly messaging them or on their Facebook page or Instagram, kind of seeming creepy or stalkerish. So they kind of spoil the relationship before they get there, because they just don't have the social skills to realize the boundary there. And I think on the opposite end is some of our young adults or teens are very anxious. They've had social experiences that have not gone well, friendship-wise or romantic-wise, and so they're very anxious and don't want to even try. And so I think those are kind of the two pieces that often come up in terms of either they're coming off too strong, or they're not sure and kind of feel paralyzed because they don't have the skills. All right, well, thank you guys very much. On behalf of the Child Study Center, it was a pleasure to give this webinar, and thank you for joining me today. Once you leave the webinar, you'll receive a survey, and we would appreciate it if you would complete it. You'll also receive a follow-up email within a day or two with a link of today's recording, the recording of today's presentation. We hope you can join us for our next webinar with 8 Ways to Beat the Back-to-School Blues. And that's by Dylan Gold, Dr. Dylan Gold. And that's on Tuesday, September 12th at 1 p.m. Thanks.